You have seen my rant and raving about all the nonsense, the terrible practices of cutting rooms in Asia. Well, I've calmed down. So let me talk to you about solutions. Let's not think about a perfect world because that's never going to happen. You know the old saying, if somebody gives you lemons, learn to make the lemonade from there. There are only two things which are done in cutting room. We lay the fabric, that is the yards or meters that we spread. And then the next thing is cutting the number of inches. Now, when we are spreading, we're not spreading t-shirts or dresses. That is in the marker. We're spreading yards. So let's focus on what is it that we are doing and how can we do that. All the other stuff, how many units were spread, how many units were cut, those are different factors. But I want to talk about fabric spreading. That is the most skilled job in the entire cutting room. Yet, all of us think, what is there to lay the fabric? Let's bring the guy off the street, put him on the fabric spreading. So that's the first thing you're going to make a change is understand that this is where you need the most skilled person. To be able to read what is the length of the marker from the cut plan or the cut order? What is the width of the fabric? What is the number of yards on the roll? What is the fabric if there is a defect in there? Do I have the eyes to be able to inspect the fabric? Because I'm going to eliminate a lot of work which is going on in Asia before it even arrives at the spreading table. So we are actually unrolling from beautifully rolled fabric, creating this so-called relaxation method, putting them into storage areas for them to be relaxed, mountains and mountains because we don't have storage area. And now what do? We actually mutilate the fabric. So the purpose of relaxing just went down the drain because here we are ballooning it, we're stretching it, and arbitrarily we decide, okay, you know what, this is where it's going to be, and we stick it, and that's it. Now, the fabric, this last layer is going to stick to the layer before. Here is a great one. In this layer, I am stretching at certain areas. Now, whatever happens, I will not be able to keep that stretch uniform because the next team comes in and they start stretching at different places. So can you imagine if you're taking a cut piece from any of that area, each and every layer will have a different stretch factor. So what were the disadvantages? The disadvantage number one was when we took out the fabric from that plastic roll, we now exposed this fabric to the humidity and the temperature of this factory. So the first thing we always profess, we always tell everyone, do not ever take the fabric out from the plastic till you're ready to lay it down on the table. That's another reason why the shading comes in, because this unwound fabric with different humidity is now sitting, exposing to light. Darker the fabric colors, easier it is to get oxidized, and that's what creates a shading, whether it is denim or any knits. The objective again is to keep it as tight as possible in the same environment as the factory sent it where it was made. The next step, somebody said, well, we need to automate, so we got the automated spreader. But this spreader was never designed the way it has been retrofitted by the local vendor of the machines. This is supposed to be tension-free spreading. What you see here where the fabric is kept is a platform that's retrofitted. What you see a sheet metal on top of it so that it can be straightened up. But now, when we are looking at the fabric going through the machine, we actually bypass this cradle, which actually was going to unwind the roll. So the purpose of relaxation or tension-free spreading is totally defeated. We are pulling the fabric from that back, and then we are now going to fix it because neither the alignment is coming out right, nor the tension is coming out right. So of course we went from 10 people on the table to 3 or 4 people, and we think the justification of that spread is phenomenal because we saved ourselves 4 people. No, we went with bad spreading to bad spreading, and we saved ourselves few people. But if I look at the total production out of these 4 people on an automatic spreader, that one manual spreader can go out and do better. All right, so they got a little better in another factory, and now they know that I'm taking the footage, and they start hustling. But here again, the same nonsense. We have a platform, we have a spread going on through without touching the cradle, pulling the fabric from there. If you look at the storage going on in the tables, this is bad management. This is bad planning. The amount of room that we have in the cutting room, I could cut 6 times more garments out of the same cutting room. Less than 30% of cutting tables are being utilized for either spreading, cutting, but now that we have the tables, we are staging, waiting for either bundling or ticketing or putting it together before it's ready to go to production. This is where we go in and look at planners, how the planners can do. When I look at the fabric planning and shade planning and roll planning and width planning and segregation, doesn't matter which cutting room I go to, I see a lot of idiosyncrasies. One is, why are we putting these tapes? Oh, we want to hold these pattern pieces. Why do we have this extra on each side? That was money. I could have made a wider marker. You look around here, you got as much as 8 inches of total waste. That's 15% fabric waste. 1.5. I could have paid for the entire cutting room staff if I just saved the fabric. If we look at the total labor cost for fabric spreading, fabric cutting, as well as bundling, let's say you're paying $100 an hour to all the people. These are the people who are deciding the fate of how much fabric per hour. And you'll find they're probably spending $9,000 worth of fabric per hour, which is being decided by people with $100 an hour. Here is the greatest example of putting the buffers in the cutter. 1 millimeter, 2 millimeter, 3 millimeter. We're going to trim it with scissors. There again goes bypassing the actual utilization of automatic cutting. All right, so here we go. Denim. What is going on here? All these wrinkles is because this fabric was relaxed. The lycra is only in the weft. So why are we relaxing the length where there is no stretch in the length? Again, we follow the instructions without really analyzing. Ticketing. Again, the same nonsense. Just imagine the number of people working in this cutting room, adding 0 value, but slowing down the process. We are now entering an era where every penny counts and every minute counts. We want fast delivery. We want the cheapest possible cost with the best possible quality. And it begins in the cutting room. I want to come up to the standard operating procedures. We know the challenges. You look at the knits only. More than 60% of all products manufactured in the world and 78% of all products manufactured in California are knit-based products. And knits come in different weights, different widths. It comes in with different mixes. It comes with different content. Yet the behavior of each one within those categories could be different. So that's what I meant by lemons and trying to make lemonade out of those. How was that fabric finished in the mill? Was it compacted? Was the edge sealed? Was it glued properly? I don't know. Maybe I'm buying from 4 different mills and all 4 of them have different ways of doing it. So I'm going to have to learn. How do I spread fabrics which has a curling edges going inside or has too much glue on the edges, or one side is too tight and is coming wavy and the other one is not? Maybe I have a fabric which has shading. Maybe I have a fabric which is really shrinking on the sides. It's not coming absolutely the same width from one end to the other in the length of the spread. I'm a mechanical engineer. And I've been in the fashion industry, apparel industry, but the engineering has helped a lot. And my family was in the garment business. There was a halter top to be made. And my father, he had 100% fabric utilization in that style. Literally. And that thing was sold for 67 cents. But we must have made about 20 million of those for 3 years in a row. This is the hippie era. So you had 2 of these units coming out from exact width. But there was no small, medium, large. It was a tie in the back, up there, and there was an embroidery in the front. My first lesson of material utilization. Fast forward, come to Canada, working for a consulting company, was setting up cutting rooms, manual trolley spreading, no CAD system, manual cutting. I'll show you my tool that I had because we didn't know how many perimeter inches are there to cut, because in cutting, you're cutting the perimeter inches. But we were setting piecework system for the manual cutting rooms. But I learned from the old timers who were fighting against higher cost. All patterns were made on manila paper. Each pattern was graded. Each size was set, extra small or medium or large or extra large or whatever the size was. But they were made from the paper, manila paper. He took 1 square yard of that paper, weighed it on a very fine scale, got the weight of that. Now he has the exact grams of how many grams per square yard. Now he measures or weighs that each size and finds out the exact weight of each size. That gives him what? How many square yards in each size? Divide that by 0.8 at 80% efficiency, because he believes it's going to be 20% loss in fabric. And guess what? His purchases were down to the best possible yard. This was 48 years ago. So I am not professing here that you need to automate. Everybody's trying to spend so much money in the automation. Let's put this folder there. Let's put this automatic pocket setter. Guys, money comes from 2 places. Material savings, labor savings. Material savings, labor savings. So before the knife gets on that fabric, your total concentration has to be material savings. Who cares how many people do you have to hire? Who cares how long does it take to do it right? So your standard operating process has to be with focus of material savings. Because once the knife is on, you either made cut goods that make garments or you made garbage. There is no more material savings after that. Now let's go and do the labor savings. Your labor in sewing, finishing, whatever, ranges no more than 17%. So if you look at the big bucks, as in fabric, 1% of fabric savings could be same as having 5 to 7% of labor savings in the sewing room. So where does this fabric saving exercise start? At the beginning when the fabric is delivered or prior to getting the fabric delivered. We have people receiving the fabric. We have the packing list. And all we are doing is matching. Did we get this 16 rolls? Did this, each roll, whatever the length was, they say it is. Who cares? I want to know what is the lot number. I want to measure every roll. What is the exact width? And I want to separate that out. There, on the dock. Not later, because the moment you mix it all up, what are you going to do? Segregate by width variation. I ordered 58-inch goods. The mill guarantees me minimum cuttable width to be 58. But when I find out I got some rolls 59 and some are 60 and some are 61 and some are 62. And if I don't use that extra, the bonus, then shame on me. Because that 1 inch extra is 2% fabrics. In the last 25 years, I can honestly say that every factory that I have gone to, and I've gone to more than 5,000 factories in Asia, I have been able to save anywhere from 2 to 11% fabric. I'm going to give you SOP, the standard operating procedure for a fabric spreader. There are 3 people in the cutting room who are what I call the most important people. One is the planner, the cutting room manager, the engineer, whatever you like to call, depending on the size of your business. But that is the person who needs to make sure the following things happen. Every marker that they are going to spread, they should know what is the width of that material and make sure the marker that has been made is exactly the same width. How many yards are required, and make sure that much yardage in that width is issued behind that table. If there are going to be more than one cut to go on that table, they must provide all those pallets and all the fabrics which are going to be spread in the next 10 to 12 hours planned for that table. What is the length of the marker, the number of layers required, the number of yards required, the width and the marker width and the fabric width to tally, and make sure that amount of fabric is now getting released from the warehouse behind the table that's going to use for spreading. Data is very simple to calculate. If you don't have the data, start collecting it. How long does it take for your people to spread a lot, a fabric, a cut? Let's say I have one marker that is 60 layers, 10 yards long, 600 yards, is 50-yard rolls. I know that they are spreading from A time to B time, and the total time gone is that many minutes. Therefore, I know how many yards per minute do I spread. Actual time. How long does it take for your people? Because that data is going to help you for the next plan. If you know that you're spreading only 5 yards a minute and next one is 500 yards to spread, you know you're going to have to block that table for that many minutes. Plan your spreads first. If you have 8 o'clock in the morning to start and finishing at 5 o'clock in the evening, how many hours do you have? You must make sure you have a cut 1, cut 2, cut 3, cut 4, so you can document it. Who is going to decide where do I start spreading from? Where do I do the splicing and where do I end? How much extra do I put in before the spread start and how much extra allowance do I put in? Who decides that? The cutting room manager must assign a person who takes care of all the tables. Now we call that person a setup person. In a large cutting room, you take one person to be trained how to do the setup for all the tables, all the people who are going to spread the materials. And that person is standing or working from one table where they have a roll of underlay paper, brown paper. They just pull that paper. They put the marker on top, open the marker, and they mark it. This is the start and this is the extra. Looking at the marker, this is my splice and this is my overlap. This is my splice and overlap. That's my end and this is my extra. They cut that brown paper, roll the marker, roll the brown paper, and two of them go together. For every cut that I'm going to make, I have these two papers, underlay paper and the marker. Marker is going to be used for two things, and I'm going to talk about that. But underlay paper is my guideline. As a spreader, I get these two. I have the fabric. First thing I do, I take my underlay paper, lay it down, tape it, tape it. My table is set. I know where to start from. I know where to end. I know where the splicing if there's a defect. Because remember, I'm going to be not only the spreader, I'm going to be fabric inspector. And I have good enough eyes and I have power to make a decision because I want to eliminate shading problems. I want to eliminate panel checking. I want to eliminate ticketing. I don't have the money to be able to put all those steps in people. All that engineering starts here. So pre-spreading, all the steps that you're taking, you need to stop. After spreading and cutting, what you're doing, you need to stop. And we'll talk about that. But let's concentrate on spreading because that's where the money is. Please mark these following steps and I'll show you a video. I take the underlay paper, I put it down on the table, I bring the first roll, I start from the start point, put my weight, and I go to the end of the mark. And I cut that. So my one layer is cut. I go back and start spreading the second one. But remember, the first layer that I spread, that was on a paper. So it kind of slips and takes its own shape. If it had been stretched or it was bad or whatever, is going to come and take its own shape. That's going to be. So I'm going to check to make sure that that is within the width and within the length. Now I start my second layer and I start spreading. I come to the end, but I don't cut it now. My second up quality control step is to go out and pull the marker, open the marker to check the width of the marker and the actual width of the fabric. If the width of my marker is narrower than the width of the fabric, I stop. I stop. Because if I catch, after the fabric has been spread, that the width of the spread was wider than the fabric, that spreading operator is history. he or she will not work for me. They are supposed to be following the procedure and QC. If they see it, the width of the marker is narrower, they roll back and lose only on one layer. Cutting room manager is called, or the quality control supervisor, or whoever the person is, and a new marker is made. That little extra width that I was going to throw away now may make me a 6 inches shorter marker and get more garments. On 100 layers, I got 600 inches. Each spread where I save, I could pay off my entire cutting room staff. I don't care how many people I have to hire, but I can't let a square inch of fabric go to waste. I make my new marker, I start spreading, and if I find the next roll is wider or narrower, I stop again and I call my boss. Because if they missed out in mixing the narrow and the wide goods, I want them to now look at all the rolls which are going to be used for this, separate them up, give me the roll which is the exact one, so I can continue while they go and find this other width. Because I show you the examples. Within one spread, there are 10 layers of this one, and then 8 layers of this one, and 6 layers of this one. All that is waste. All that is waste. Remember, every time you have this mix, you're also guaranteed that you are going to have a different shade because they're from a different lot. So in order to have less number of seconds or possibilities of having dye lots, it's easier. Now, for management who's working with mills, the fabric purchasing managers, one small hint, whether it's buying woven goods or you're buying knit goods, speak to your mills. An 80-20 rule applies. 80% of your fabric comes from 20% of the mills. Okay, so you don't need to go 100% everywhere. Always start from small successes rather than trying to find the most difficult thing and then dishearten the entire team. To implement anything, to make any change, you must create small successes so that the whole team gets motivated to get going, okay? In mills, they have an accounting and accountability of how much yarn, from where did they use, which machine using which yarn, how many yards did they get from which machine before they cut off, how did they join this. In the next step, in the bath, how many kilos of fabric went in. They have all that records. And believe it or not, on that packing list or the ticket, they have multiple informations. You're looking at only the width and you're looking at only the length. But look at that ticket and you'll find there are a lot of internal information of that mill. So get to know from the mill what does each mean. Or better yet, if I was to identify by dye lot or by width, which field should I be looking for? For denim people, 10,000 yards is coming out from one weaving machine. I may have 20, 30, 40 machines, and I cannot wait for this machine to finish 10,000 yards. So I may be taking out 1,000 yards and 1,000 yards and 1,000 yards from each machine and make a 10,000 yards from this to go to the next step. But this weaving machine that gave me the 1,000 yards, I'm guaranteed the width will be exactly the same. Because the machine is set up, my shrinkage will be the same. And just do an analysis and you'll find on every cut that you make, average number of yards you spend is about 1,000 yards. In denim, you can't cut more than 1,000 yards at a time. You're not going to get 20,000 yards in one cut. You're going to make 20 cuts. So how about if I just took that 1,000 yard roll? I don't have to do any blankets, wash tests, shrinkage tests, and all that. But if I had 100-yard rolls, I'm going to have to take 10 half-yard or three-quarter yard or 1 yard from each roll. If I had 50-yard rolls, I'm going to have 20. If I had 200-yard roll, I'm doing a simple math, then I have to take 5 only. But if I knew that all these rolls have come from that 1,000 yards, I just have to take 1. That's how simple it can be. I mean, it's a shame that I go and see so many companies who are actually vertical, but they're not even talking to each other. Mill is working as though factory is a client. Let's collaborate. Every one of us need to have the right information to be able to make right decision. And the decision making should be so simple. The thinking process is already engineered. If this is this, then you do that. That's what SOP means, standard operating procedure means. Going back to your spreading. The second layer, when I put it up there, is going to stick to the first layer. So wherever the first layer was, my second layer is going to be on top. So if I spread it with stretch, it's going to pull the first layer. It's going to try to come back. And all the people who have told you that you have to leave the spread for 6 hours, 8 hours, 10 hours, they are right, but they are wrong. They are right that if you leave it a stretched spread, if you leave a stretched spread, some of it will come back, but only at the end. The only half a yard to a yard of the two ends. Never in the middle. Never in the core of that spread. That's why try cutting from the middle with a fabric so that you have a section and you will see just like the parting of the sea. Why? Because that was stretched during spreading. So where is that going back to? The quality of spreading. That is where the skill comes in. You do it right with the right person, you eliminate all the problems. You should be able to see if the fabric is being spread. You're not in a competition to make it look nice with the iron and so on. You're not in the competition to make it look nice, to spread it nice, because the damn thing is going to come back. You are in the business of spreading the fabric without any stretch. So even with a $1,500 manual spreader that everybody uses here, you are unwinding the material, the extra is in the way, and it's coming back to its original, and you're laying it down. Not pulling it, you're laying it down. Oh, that little extra that came in, don't worry about it. That's a stretch, that's gonna go away. You can fix the edge with the ruler, but you don't have to have the second person, because that's gonna cost you $22 an hour more. If you're spreading and unwinding and moving, but you're also inspecting the fabric, you're the only one who sees everything. Even if you have to slow it down in the beginning, remember I said you'll pick up the speed, but your process needs to follow every step. So you're going to unwind, you're going to push, and you're going to look. If you see a flaw, you are the only one who's going to make a decision. There are several ways. There is not one final answer that's the only way to do it. There are several ways of doing it. Some people will cover the flaw with another fabric to see if that is a contrast. Let's say, example, I'm laying black fabric. I see a hole. I don't know whether that hole is going to be in the waist area or it's going to be in the pattern piece, but I don't know which pattern piece. And it's a very expensive fabric. I did that 35 years ago for a factory that was making neckties at $85 a yard. We said, leave all flaws in, do not do the splicing because you're going to waste a lot of material. Yes, We will make more seconds, but we will make more fast. Now imagine I put the white fabric, a little strip on top of that floor, and I covered it. And then I continue to spread without stopping, without splicing. So I have this spread which has been cut. All the pieces that was cut where the fabric had the white strip in there, I see from the edge and I see where the white is. The only thing my person in the bundling does, pick up the white from there, see if there is any flaw in there. There's no flaw, take the white out, it's approved. Maybe that flaw went into the holes that was thrown away. Or maybe I see it on the pocket or the front or the back or whatever. No problems, I take that out, get it recut and put it back in there and I'm ready to go. What is my objective? My objective is to spread the fabric, get the best possible utilization with minimum number of people, and the quality of the spread should be tension-free. Those who are using automatic spreading machines with platform, you're actually bypassing the entire thing. Tension-free mechanism that you have on your spreading machines. So the investment that you made in buying an automatic spreading machine was a total waste of money. You may have saved 4, 5, 6 people because before you were having 8 people or 6 people doing it, now you have 2 people spreading. I don't even have 2 people spreading on a manual spreaders, let alone automatic spreaders. But every company that I've gone to, the management is extremely happy. Shame on those vendors who did not really implement and train you and did not fight you and tell you, use the damn cradle. This is designed so that you can very gently unwind the material from the roll, push it without tension onto the table, and let the machine handle. Most of the machines coming in have 2 powers. One is what we call the table motor. The other one is unwinding. Unwinding can be based on how the fabric is coming in. Is it coming in too tension or not enough tension? I can control that. Maybe I unwind 15 yards a minute while spreading 14 yards a minute. All these things are technical know-how, and it should be the vendor of that machine or the supplier of the machine's problem to train. And all these agents who have sold you the machines and did not train you, go in there and ask them, before you sell me a machine, I want you to be able to operate. If you're not able to operate, you're not welcome in my factory or my office. So remember, we separated by die lots and by weights. 99% chances are that I'm able to control my die lot and shade. So I finish one roll and I splice my second roll on top. I have seen too many places where even the white or off-white, even the pocketing or lining is being ticketed because nobody really thought, why are we doing this? Why is it necessary? The worst example was a company in Sri Lanka where the company was vertical and it's a local retailer. I walk into their cutting room and they have 3 people ticketing, literally. So I asked the owner, are you having shading problem? He said, hell no, we make most expensive fabric. We control the shades. So why are you ticketing? Found out the manager had come from an export house. He knew that the only way to do it, you have to ticket it. By stopping, we saved 1 table, 3 people, and 8 hours. Stop with that nonsense called ticketing. Ever tried to see in the sewing room how many people are really matching those tickets? Nobody. You are now destroying the garment by putting the glued ticket on that and then somebody has to take it off. You created that extra work. And because I'm going to be ticketing, I have extra fabric because I did not do my yardage right. Therefore, my 2-yard, 3-yard, 4-yard leftover from the roll, my so-called end bits, even the technology companies from Asia are writing the bloody software how to utilize those end bits. Hello? The solution is not to have that problem. That is extra loss. Now you have leftover fabrics. Now you have to make new markers. Now you have to make shorter markers. And do what? Why rehandle the whole thing? Why slow it down? All that is going to be at different shades. Stop the ticketing. Stop pre-inspecting the fabrics. Start keeping the scorecard of every mill. Because you know what? Just like you have quality control issues, and your issues will continue to be exactly the same because those are your SOPs. Same thing is happening with your mills. If their fabrics are coming in with 5 defects in 100 yards, and second time came in 5 defects in 100 yards, you can bet your whatever, the third one will be 5 defects in 100, because they were using the same machinery, same people, same. So by keeping the scorecard gives you predictive analysis. What can you expect? Okay, so first thing we notice here, the fabric rolls are still in the plastic. We will take it out only when we are ready to spread. He takes the fabric, puts it on that $1,500 trolley, no assistant, no helpers, one person. Every operator is responsible for their own. All these rolls you see in the back sitting there, that's how the fabric was delivered. They were segregated and they were stored ready to go. The pallet is brought in. This person starts spreading and he's pushing the trolley. He is looking at the fabric flaws and he's unwinding the material. If there is anything, he has a ruler where he adjusts that. There is no second person to pull that. The fabric is in the natural state. So many knits, we do what we call the face-up spreading. In knits, we can do the face-to-face. That gives me more productivity. A person like this, who's doing manual spreading, can spread anywhere between 2,000 to 6,000 yards per 8 hours. On our manual spreaders, we don't understand that pace. We are so not used to having fast pace, productivity. It's just a matter of our own mental blockage. Look at this person's speed. One person. Every table has one spreader, one person. They are spreading the fabric. They are inspecting the material. And if they see something, they will splice it out. He sees the flaw. He goes over. Rather than cutting, he just throws it away. This is absolutely important, to give the responsibility and authority to the person who is going to be first and the last person to handle the fabric, do the spreading, check the fabric defects, and give me the fabric spreads ready to cut. A team of cutters will come in, they will lay the marker on top, and they will start cutting. And the person who's doing the spreading will just take the spreading machine and then puts it on the other side of the table and start spreading. You will find in the entire cutting room 8 to 10 people doing 15 to 25,000 garments a day. It will blow you away when you start looking at these kind of cutting rooms. It's important to understand that when you're paying $22 an hour and you're charging 25 cents a garment, you have to find the ways to make the money. This is so far from the Asian factories. Only if they could start benchmarking here and then start working towards that. So if anybody says it cannot be done, you're welcome to come in, or I can bring the people with this $1,500 machine and train your people. If you don't believe it, talk to the people in Bangladesh, in India, in Sri Lanka, in Pakistan, in Malaysia, where we've actually installed these machines. In China, we literally saved hundreds and hundreds of thousands of dollars worth of fabric just by utilizing the methods. The objective here is first, get exposed to the better practices. Once you understand that, it's much easier. You look at that one person. This person is doing approximately 15 to 20 yards a minute, and he does that all day long. Even at 10 yards a minute for 480 minutes, it's 4,000 plus yards per person. We can't get that in many factories, that many yards in a day with 50 people doing that. Do you see on the right side under the table all the markers ready to cut? Those are the underlay people and the markers. That's your setup man who does all the preparations for all the markers to be cut, and he's going to send out to all those tables. You really have to be in those cutting rooms to be able to experience how calm and quiet these people are, how they are concentrating on their work, and how they are being productive all day long for the rest of the day at the same pace. So it is not something that I see in Asia. Every time they see me with a camera, everybody starts moving in a different pace. This is their pace. This is how they work. Every one of them. I am trying to do this because it's a 14-yard long spread, and I can actually time it looking at this one. How long does it take for them to spread this? There should be no cutting room where there's more than one person on a spreading. There's one person on the cutting, and there's people behind in servicing. Every one of you must make a pledge to work with the minimum number of people. And guess what? 80 to 90% of your people will be gone if you follow my advice. You may have to invest $1,500 or a couple of $1,000s on a spreading machine, which is really a hunk of metal, but one person can do that. None of your automatic spreading machine people will tell you that you should buy that because they want you to buy this $40,000, $50,000 spreaders. It's like giving you a car and you don't even know how to ride a bicycle. You're walking. You're extremely happy if 2 people or 4 people are able to run that machine because you had 8 or 10 people. Wow, we've come a long way. No. Manually, with a $1,500 push trolley, you should be working with one person. I think I'm going to stop here and I'll come back to cutting for another day. But cutting is literally the least skilled job. No. Seriously. I know all of you going, what are you talking about? Get the person off the street. Teach them safety procedures, how to switch the machine on. Tell them to go slowly and follow the line. You will have the best quality products. All these so-called fast cutters don't even follow the line. The worst quality is coming in from the cutting because you had most experienced person. Get your priorities right. Let's get the experienced person where it requires and let them get on to the best practices, and let's get the least experienced person on the cutting and let them. And there is nothing called bundling. There is nothing called ticketing. There is nothing called panel inspection. You spread, you cut, you take it to the sewing room. End of the discussion. This is a cutting room. Company is called Los Angeles Apparel. They cut 165,000 garments per day. 165,000 garments per day. 4 cutting tables, 3 cutters, 8 people in the entire cutting room are producing approximately 50,000 garments per shift. And they work 3 shifts. They have 3 cutters, automatic cutters. That third one, once it's done, is going to give another 50,000 units per day. So now they will be running at almost 250,000 units a day. They spread both automatic as well as manually. And then they bring it to the cutters. Cutters cut it. They bring it to the tables. And from those tables, they are matched for the size, all the components. And these components are then tied together. And if you see here she's securing that cut, which is, I don't know how many thousands of garments in there. She is going to send that trolley to the factory, which is just on the other side. So here are the cut goods strapped, ready to go to the factory, and we're done with this. Anyone who wants to know how to do it in their own, and if they don't understand their own business problems, how to solve those in their own business models, I'm happy to answer your questions. I have been labeled disruptor because I very strongly believe a change is constant, but growth is optional. Whatever we did yesterday was for yesterday's problems. In cutting room, we are continuously challenged by a new fabric, a new process, a new mill. But that doesn't mean that we can't think logically. I certainly hope that the topics that I've touched has some input for your business. I'd like you to make a comment if it has been any help to you, or would you like to see something else, or would you like to learn something? Whatever it is, my team and myself will make a concentrated effort to get back to every one of you. At my age, it doesn't make a difference whether we sell one machine or 100 or 1,000, whether you give me money or you don't. The only thing that matters is that you do it right, and do it right first time. And if you don't know it, you learn it from the right people. And we don't claim to know everything, but I think experience teaches you what not to do. This is based on that experience. Thank you.